Cavan Scott, Francesco Francavilla, and Megan Levins bring more Tales of the Crypt-style stories to the Star Wars universe as a young archaeologist remembers a terrifying dream he had featuring Anakin Skywalker, Padme Amidala, and zombified droids. Cavan Scott gets the Star Wars universe into the Halloween mood with a wonderful new series springboarding off the previous Vader's Castle series, continuing the very Tales from the Crypt anthology framing device to tell a really neat zombie droid story. I really liked how there was no fat in this issue whatsoever. We got straight into the story after a brief setup with the overarching story which will be throughout all of these issues, and never once did it slow down after that, ramping up the horror as we went along. One thing I did appreciate is that whatever was infecting the droids was never explained in an overly thought out exposition dump. Like in horror is when we get things like this, like these weird viruses, techno-organic viruses, and we never know where they came from or how they came to be, and it allows your imagination to sort of take over and sort of start thinking about where it all came from and sort of add to the mystery of all of this, and that's exactly what happens here, and I really appreciate Cavan for going that extra mile and doing that when he could easily have just given us an explanation for it. It was also great seeing a rather competent Jar Jar Binks being written here, and while we still do get a little bit of slapstick comedy, he ends up actually saving the day and helping Anakin for a change. That is until the end, which I won't spoil too much. Francesco Francavilla and Megan Levins give us some fantastic horror-leaning artwork, with Francesco giving us this great dark and atmospheric wraparound to Megan's cleaner, yet still quite grotesque-looking artwork. I loved Megan's depiction of the virus being these gross techno-organic trendles that crawl over everything and everyone, and it just kind of sends shiver down your spine when you see it crawling all over Anakin and Padme. And I like that she skirted the whole no blood rule or no too much gore rule with neat glowing green ooze that, thanks to the muted colours of her portion of the book, really stood out on the page. Star Wars Adventures Ghosts of Vader's Castle issue 1 was a really fun dive into Star Wars horror with a neat setup to a larger storyline building over multiple issues, and a great solo story that gave us just enough to let our imaginations run wild with the premise. I'm going to give this issue a 9.5 out of 10. Star Wars Adventures Ghosts of Vader's Castle issue 1 finds Vader's acolyte Vanny talk with his dead master, preparing the ritual for him. Vanny calls forth the immortal gods of the Sith, wanting them to seek out who have wronged them and allow the Dark Lord to rise again and have his revenge. In the Graph archive on Orchis 2, Milo asks when his sister Lena will be home, but the girl knows that Orchis 2 isn't really their home. Milo knows it was their family's home for centuries, surprised to find the giant library there that the Empire was using. Milo's droid Crater is upset the Empire didn't treat the library with proper respect, as Milo stumbles upon diagrams of Darth Vader's castle on Mustafar, something Lena is scared by thanks to having been there when her ship once crash landed near the haunted castle. Lena wants her brother to promise he won't be going on one of his expeditions there, glad to hear that his adventuring days are behind him. Lena leaves to meet with General Syndulla as Crater comes upon a holocron, as the boy considers maybe even going on one final expedition, remembering a strange dream he had after reading a report from the Clone Wars about a senator and her Jedi bodyguard, knowing in the dream he was the bodyguard. In the past, Senator Padme Amidala, Anakin Skywalker, Jar Jar Binks, R2-D2 and C-3PO all arrive on Ribonero, a planet of little importance to the Republic. Padme doesn't care since there was a settlement there since the days of the High Republic, but it suddenly stopped responding to messages. The group venture into the ghost town, finding it completely deserted as 3PO is left alone, walking into a dark room where he finds another giant droid, hoping it's friendly. Anakin and Jar Jar meanwhile find a heap of scrap droids, but no townsfolk, as Jar Jar is almost crushed by a falling droid. Anakin asks why he has to touch everything, and Jar Jar only says he's curious. Padme meanwhile wonders where 3PO has gone to as Anakin spots him, finding the droid's arm has been ripped off. 3PO attacks his master, forcing Anakin to cut the droid down. 3PO doesn't stay down though, as strange trendles shoot out of his body, reconnecting it together as trendles grab Anakin's cybernetic arm. Zombie droids begin to surround the group as Padme thinks that something is very wrong with these droids. Jar Jar tries to run, but the droids grab him, taking him as Padme throws a serving droid into the group. group, freeing Jar Jar from their iron grips. Anakin meanwhile uses the Force to free his lightsaber and cut himself free of the Trendles, trying to determine what exactly is doing this, thinking that it has to be a corrupted batch of oil or something else. Jar Jar doesn't care, wanting to get out of there quick, and Anakin agrees as the group race back to the shuttle. Anakin grabs Padme forcefully, but it's not him actually doing it since his arm is now possessed by the Trendles and he cannot control it. Thanks to some quick thinking, Jar Jar grabs a serving droid's platter with his tongue, whipping it at Anakin's arm and cutting it off at the joint as 3PO crawls after his master. R2 smashes into his friend to stop him, but in doing so is also infested by the Trendles. Anakin is sad to see his friends infected, but Padme knows that there isn't anything they can do, arriving back at the ship, firing on the droids with her blaster as they take off. Aboard the ship, Anakin thinks that maybe the Republic was right to stay away from the planet. Padme doesn't understand what happened to the settlers, wondering if the droids killed them all, but where are all of the bodies? Anakin doesn't know, asking Jar Jar what he thinks, but the heroes learn that their friend has been infected by the Trendles as well, grabbing at them. Milo finishes his story, saying that that's usually when he wakes up, knowing that he never will look at most droids the same way. Suddenly Milo is zapped unconscious by Crater, knowing that he never would hurt anyone unless his Dark Lord commanded it.